Finally.
Good.
Right. So, you want to do the introduction for this one, please, bro?
Yes, I will. Hello, everybody. This is the Football Referee, where we discuss obviously all things football. I am Trevor Gear, and he calls me bruv.
And I'm Emmy Hikins, and he calls me Cuz. Welcome to the football referee. Should we start with Crystal Palace?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've really, I was really rooting for Crystal Palace before all the, you know. Do you think, it's the transfers away from the club or the moves away from the club that's really brought down the morale of the players? What do we think is responsible there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the moves away, starting with Eze early in the season, and last week, Mark Gay to Manchester City. Yeah, they clearly have had an impact because in those two cases, we've lost a captain, a very good captain, a first-class footballer in Mark Gay, and a very good striker called Eberechi Eze to
Mm.
Arsenal. So, of course, there will be an impact on the team inevitably when they lose two such good players. But then
Mm.
again, it was always known that Eze was going to go. I think Arsenal, in fact, Tottenham were in the frame for the most part, and then right at the last minute, Arsenal stepped in and bought him. I'm not sure how well it's going for him there, actually. That's perhaps another subject, but he
Yeah.
started off well. I think he scored a hat trick early on in one of the games and one or two other goals, but he's not been featuring in starting the team much of the time since then. And of course,
Mm.
this is the thing, just to say, when players go to one of these big clubs, I suppose they just have to accept that they are going to be rotated. They're not going to necessarily step in, excuse me, to the first team. Certainly every week, and I think Eze is experiencing that. Whereas Mark Gay, I mean, he's only played one game so far. There's a game tonight, I think, for Man City in the Champions League. I don't know whether he'll play in that, but he had a
Mm.
good first game on the weekend. Did Mark Gay for Manchester City against Wolves, which they did win. But
Mm.
yeah, it clearly has affected things. But what, in a way, sort of made it a bit worse, and I think this was where Oliver Glasner was coming from
Mm.
earlier in the season, that after the FA Cup win, there was a sense around the club that we wanted to kind of try and take the next step to be a bit more established. We knew a new stand, a new ground is on the horizon. I mean, in theory, it should be starting at the end of this season. Hopefully,
Mm.
it will. So that would be good because our ground, although it's got a great atmosphere, it is one of the oldest, I think, in the Premier Division. So we need to upgrade that. But it was felt, I think the manager felt that the owners should have maybe invested more in the team last summer than they did.
Mm.
And possibly they got distracted, Steve Parish, by the qualification for the Europa Cup. And then we were relegated to the conference because of certain ownership problems
Mm.
with the club. Anyway, be that as it may, I don't think they did replace players, even though they knew some would be going. And that's led to before Christmas, a sense that we didn't know whether Glasner was going to sign a contract after his one expires at the end of this season. And he
Mm.
came out couple of weeks ago, quite angry after Palace lost to Macclesfield, six divisions below them in the FA Cup, saying that he wasn't supported by the board, and we were desperately short of players. Now they kind of kissed and made up, I think, but he will be going at the end of the season, if not before, because again on Saturday we lost to Arsenal at home, and it was a shame really because much of the first half, it was pretty equal. Palace were not playing badly, but then one of our young players, because in fact I guess you could say he was replacing Mark Gahey in the defence. He made a bad mistake, which anyone I guess is prone to, and he doesn't have much experience, but which led to Arsenal's first goal. Estevado, his name, isn't it? You probably know his name in Arsenal. Very quick player, very good goal. So that set us off in a bad place. And then later in the game, they got a penalty, which the ref didn't actually blow for. So it was put to VAR because there was an apparent handball on the line. But anyway, long story short, it wasn't deliberate handball. And the defenders, ironically, the same guy who made the mistake, his arms were by his side. And also the ball hit his hand on the line after bouncing off his leg. Now, that's not handball in the laws of the game. So, and you think VAR would know that. Anyway, they then sent the referee, who hadn't given a penalty, to the box, the TV thing at the side of the pitch. And he seemed to take ages looking at this repeated action of the handball. And incredibly, he gave a penalty, even though on Match of the Day, the pundits both said, and it was, can't think of his name, but Wayne Rooney and another guy, regular on there. And they both said no. They looked at it, that's not a penalty. So, of course, these things tend to go against you when you're losing, when things are going against you. So then the penalty came, and, of course, they scored. A bit later, Adam Walton, who got booked for quite a tough tackle. He's very good at these tackles if he times them properly, but a slight mistiming, like any player, and you upend the opponent. Well, that happened. And then he did a similar thing shortly afterwards, and he was sent off. So he'll now have a one-game ban, so he won't be available for this week's game at Nottingham Forest. So there's a bit of a lowness. Now, I'm pleased to say that the fans, the fans, they were still very supportive of the team. I think Palace fans are known for that, and willing them on to win and supporting them. I think Oliver Glasner, he got a sort of a modest reception, but not like he would normally get. And also Mateta, who clearly wants to go. I think he may well be going this week, ironically, to Nottingham Forest, possibly. But he's obviously lost interest at Palace, and got to be honest, he's not played very well for most of this season.
No.